Hello and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we publish the full interviews from our site's articles and sometimes release exclusive episodes. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, Jon Montague, Liam Baker, Rob Clark and Nick Wilton of the British punk band Seven Crowns talk to us about their 20th anniversary, how they survived as a band for that long, touring across the world and why they're no longer interested, their latest album Haunted Head and why they've elected not to upload it to Spotify, working with producer Josh Gallop and what he adds to the band's music, and much more. Oh, there we go. I can hear you perfect. How's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Perfect. Lovely to meet you. How are you doing?
Good, mate. Good. Sorry, what's your name?
Aaron.
Hey, Aaron. Pleased to meet you.
Very nice to meet you guys. Maybe just to start, if everyone would just like introduce themselves and say what they play and all, so we know your voices.
There you go.
Okay, I'll start. My name's Nick, and I play bass in the band.
Perfect.
I'm John. I'm the singer.
Liam on guitar.
I'm Rob. I play drums.
Perfect. First thing I was going to ask, quite simply, is that Seven Crowns have been going around for about 20 years now. Does it feel that long to you guys?
Yeah. Well, no, it did. When we were still touring a lot, it felt like we'd been together for 12,000 years. Now we don't play live very rarely. We just treat it as a hobby.
Yeah.
We're not getting rich or famous. We don't want to be rich or famous. We just enjoy doing it. That's how you can do it for 20 years, really. Don't put any pressure on yourself to do anything for anyone, really. As long as you're happy to let everybody down, you'll do well in music. All right? That's basically friends, family, record companies. You let everyone down, you'll do fine. As long as you go in expecting to let people down.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let people down.
It's why, for that reason, I'm largely unemployable in the real world.
Well, actually, speaking of which, like Seven Crowns, like when you guys like started, I mean, you say you don't tour anymore, but like you guys really toured in the beginning, and
Yeah.
I mean, like straight away, I mean, you get that support stuff with the Subhumans going around the States, for example. It's like and just everywhere you've kind of been. I mean, what's that kind of like? I mean, as like a sort of a new project, just to be able to get those opportunities like straight away.
Well, we were lucky because we're from the same hometown as the Subhumans.
Right.
I've known Dick and those guys since I was 15.
Yeah.
So we just kind of asked them when they were drunk, can we come on tour with you in America? And they went, yeah, thinking we wouldn't. And then we did. So, but we've done that a couple of times with the Subhumans. We invited ourselves to play with them in Singapore. So we went to Singapore. Yeah, we went to Singapore for the weekend. It seemed like a good idea 6 months before. The reality of being at the airport and going, oh, fucking hell, we're going 9,000 miles for the weekend. So, yeah, it was.
Yeah, weekend trip to Singapore from that.
Seriously, man, when we left on the Monday, it was the same customs guy who saw us on the Friday. And he was just like, what the hell are you doing? And for the weekend. But yeah, we regretted that.
Yeah, I can imagine. But didn't you guys tour around like Australia and New Zealand around that time too? Am I getting that wrong? Yeah.
We did New Zealand, which was kind of when touring came to an end because you kind of ran out of planet. So I remember being like on the Pacific coast somewhere looking out and just thinking, well, we've gone everywhere. We've done America, we've done Europe, we've done Southeast Asia, Mexico. We just kind of ran out, and at a certain age, I mean, I'm 55.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain age, being on tour just becomes a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Every part of we played 2 gigs back to back 2 weeks ago, and I'm still a physical disaster from it.
But does that make the times you do play like special? Because like I know, for example, you always play like England, you do some shows, and then you always do like Germany. So I mean, just in terms of having, I guess, that consistency, is it something to look forward to every year, or how does it feel?
Brexit's killed us.
Yeah,
Brexit's killed going to Europe for a tour. You know, it used to be something we do at a drop of a hat, and if you want to do it legitimately now, going from England, it's insane. You need visas, you need carnet documents for the van. you need tax. You know, you get taxed on your merch leaving the country. You get taxed on your merch coming back in. So we played there. We played there about a year ago. Was it? But we had to sneak in. Basically, we had to go in as civilians and borrow equipment. America, well, no one in their right mind would want to go to America these days. You know, I mean, it wasn't a very nice. I personally didn't think it was a very nice place before, and I'd spent years out there. Now, forget it. I won't get in anymore anyway. I don't think two of us probably won't get in these days. Wouldn't be allowed in the country.
Yeah, no, that's mad scary because like I see like actually a lot of bands coming out who are very like politically outspoken and speaking about Trump and speaking about like Palestine, speaking about like different issues and like still touring the States, and I'm like, how the hell did they get in?
Yeah, I know, right? It's
a lot have been turned away though.
Yeah, that's the really a lot have been turned out. A lot haven't made it in.
Yeah,
I mean that's why we're at the moment. I'm trying to put gigs together in Ireland because it's one of the few places we can go and bloody tour now if we want to. We don't want to tour that much anymore, partly because the options have been removed from us.
Have you been here before?
No, I went there. I was in Ireland about 30 years ago. That was my last time.
It's changed a lot since then.
Yeah.
We can come and stay at your place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll let the people know.
Where are you based?
I'm in Dublin. Yeah, I'm just
You're in Dublin,
cool.
Cool.
So I'm in County Dublin. I'm not in the city. I'm just like outside. Yeah,
Right.
but that's cool though. But like, what do you think? Like, just in like the 20 years. I mean, obviously you're talking there about like how sort of politics that are beyond your control can kind of dictate how the band goes. Like, how much sort of dictation over the project do you think you guys have? Like, when it comes to say touring versus how much is sort of dictated by something like Brexit or something like just external factors beyond your control. Like,
well, I mean, the whole vibe has changed. You said Brexit obviously hammered us for going to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
So, we can only do it if we do it sneakily.
We were so glad we toured so much when we did.
Yeah,
because we got it all in, completed touring when we did it, and so.
How do you do it if you're, a band 19, 20 years old, and how, I don't know how those bands do that now.
It's easy because you're 19, you can sleep fucking anywhere, and it doesn't matter.
No, but in terms of the venues and
yeah,
getting your kit there.
But I mean, everywhere's. The USA one. I don't think two of us would get in the country anyway anymore, and two got no bloody inkling to go there. We were trying because we spent so much time, or we used to spend so much time in Southeast Asia, and even that has got. It used to be fine. If customs got funny, you just give them a couple of quid and it was fine. I was in there. I was trying to book us gigs there earlier in the year, and we would have to go the legal route, and the legal route would cost us about £15,000 before we left London. You know, so just pointless. So that's been cut off now. But it would be cheaper for us to go and play in New Zealand than Europe now if we did it legitimately.
Oh really? Oh yeah. Is that something with the Commonwealth or?
Yeah, if we could just we can go in and out. That's no problem.
That's right. Yeah, because I thought England still gets. I thought you guys still get the 90-day visa free. Is that not correct? I could be wrong.
Where's that, to New Zealand?
I thought like across the Schengen area. I thought you guys got the 90-day travel.
If you're playing music, not a hope in hell.
Not really? Okay.
£800 per person.
Yeah.
For a visa. So carnet documents are about £1,000. Then of course you get taxed bringing your merch into Europe, and anything you haven't sold, you might get taxed bringing it back out again. And the key is the driver. If you've taken a driver with you, he's only allowed to work 3 days before he goes back to England and gets another visa.
Oh really?
Because they treat him as a delivery driver. There's no difference. There's no difference between you driving an 18-wheeler and picking up fridges, or you're driving a band. You're a delivery driver. You're like 3 stops and back. So.
That's actually insane. I didn't even know this. Like, but this is the logistics that people don't like even think about. Like when it comes to like a touring act. So yeah, I think it's very fair that you guys are kind of putting a bit of a rest on that for the moment. What about even touring up and down the UK? I mean, is that something that like even really appeals to you now, or because like, what I think is
It
like kind
never
of cool is that like, sorry,
it's never appealed toward the
yeah,
UK really. Because even before Brexit, notoriously touring bands in the British Isles got treated like absolute shit compared with the
right,
rest of Europe.
mhm.
Every band who's ever gone, you play some little German venue and you get a fabulous rider and food and you get paid and you get a place to stay. And most venues in Britain, you just show up and you're supposed to be grateful to be allowed in the front door.
Drink
Yeah,
drinks tokens.
Yes, or
drink
take a
tokens,
drink
yes.
tokens and be grateful.
You guys get
And that's
drinks?
even if that's even if you're lucky, because I've worked some gigs where they just give you the wristband, and it's like it's not that you get free drinks, it's that you get a discounted drink.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's terrible.
but the flip side of that, now I'm an old geezer.
Yeah,
You look at the disasters that I used to, because before this, I lived in the German sort of punk scene for years in the early 90s. And because of those unlimited riders bands used to get, bands touring from America or the British Isles always used to come unstuck on the first 2 or 3 gigs
hmm
because they
yeah.
weren't used to the promoter just coming, drink everything, it's free. We've fallen foul of it. Every band fell foul for it the first time. And you just do it because the novelty
Yeah.
of having unlimited beer. It's just like that. When you come off the islands and you get, what do you mean I can just drink for free till 5 a.m.? I'll be fine. Tomorrow's gig will be great. We'll be brilliant. Yeah. So,
The other cool thing about like mainland Europe that we don't really have here, like whether it's in Ireland or the UK, it's like, they had that like the conversion of the youth center. So I think if I'm getting this
yeah.
correct, I
Yeah.
believe
Oh,
like in
God,
the
yeah.
in the 70s you had all these like youth centers that were kind of inactive, and basically just these punks just kind of squatted there and took them over and made
Yeah.
them venues. The most famous is probably the arena in Vienna, but there's like loads of them across like across Europe, and like, but that seems to be a very continental thing. We don't have that culture here, it
Yeah.
seems. Yeah.
Well, my introduction to that summer of 1988, I was 17 and I knocked on the door of the Van Hal squat in Amsterdam.
Yep.
Huge old factory. Just knocked on the door with me, mate, and said, can we stay here for the summer? And these Italian punks went, yeah, and just gave us a set of keys. That was it. And that was us for the next 4 months. But that was like the first week we were there. Scream played.
Yeah.
And it was like the Dutch and all the people lived there. Okay, you want to stay here? You work the fucking gig. So it was like,
Which is fair
cool.
trade.
So you learn how to work gigs. That's how I learned all that, But having to come back to Britain after that, spending the summer in a big European sort of late 80s, one of the mega squats, was like, oh God.
Yeah.
Just crusties and glue bags and
Well, no, I think actually, if I'm correct, 88 was also, I think Fugazi played there that year. I don't know if you saw them. But I
yeah,
think
that was Van
yeah.
Hal as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
first
And
summer, that summer, I saw in a month Scream, RKL, Christ on Parade. Christ, who else was it? Fugazi. Yeah, that was in the first month I was there.
oh my God, yeah, because I think it used to be, from what I remember, it was the Tribal Area who used to set it up, right? Or that was a video production. They documented all those tours.
Torsten
So I
Bach
remember
and Tribal Area is my old flatmate.
exactly, yeah. So I used to watch
Torsten
all
and
their
Colette, who
videos
did Tribal
like
Area. I lived with them
as
for
a
years.
teenager. Oh, really? So wait, okay, so you can tell me then. So did they set up the gigs, or did they just like document them?
They just filmed them. They had the Tribal Area video fanzine.
Yeah, they used to tour like the whole. Yeah.
Yeah, they used to follow. Yeah, I mean, that Torsten would go off with Bad Religion for the whole tour.
Yeah, that was the Along the Way video.
It
I had
got
that as a
funnier
kid.
when they started working for MTV and they had to go on tour with Manowar. Oh, the stories.
I think also, didn't they used to put on, could be getting this wrong, but didn't they also used to sometimes put on like like squats? Didn't they used to put on like bands like even like Gwar and stuff like that, and Napalm Death?
Oh
So it
God,
wasn't even
yeah.
just necessarily punk bands.
Well, certain bands like Gwar would request to play in places like that.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't know what I'm imagining their set is as messy now as it used to be. But when they broke out, a lot of venues wouldn't let them in.
Yeah.
You know, because they'd hear what they did and go, "There's no way you're doing that in our club."
Yeah.
So they'd go to squats, and squats would be, "Yeah, we don't care."
Yeah, we can clean up the blood. It's fine.
Yeah, all the green semen all over the ceiling. Fine.
And when it comes to, again, 20 years of doing this band, one thing I was also interested in is like how is kind of like the advancements in sort of technology and the kind of helped the project along. I mean, do you find a difference between when you were putting out records, in the late 2000s versus like now? Is it easier, or is it kind of pretty much the same?
Recording's a lot easier.
Yeah.
And it's a lot faster, and it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
We have the advantage that Josh, who's our sort of fifth member who plays live with us, he's also our kind of producer.
Yeah,
And
Josh
he's a
Gallop,
bit of
yeah.
the kid's a fucking genius.
Yeah.
We just waited years for someone we could go, "Josh, can you make it kind of go, and he'll go, "Yeah." And we've never had anyone like that before. So we just, and we trust him just to do what he wants, really, because he just knows more about it than any of us. So we just bow to his greater knowledge.
The working relationship is you give him Pee Wee Herman kind of noises, and he's like able to know what that means.
I'm glad you've understood. Well, that's the technical side of it. Josh, I've got it. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, they'll give us that and actually make it better as well.
Yeah, because I've spoken to lots of artists actually who've worked with Josh, and one thing I'll say for him, and I think this is true of like all good producers, that like he's really good at well, first of all, he's good at collaborating with other artists. Everyone says like he's there to kind of facilitate what they wanted, like not that he was there to impose what he thought the record should be. But the other thing too is that like he works with people with so many different genres who have so many different kind of visions for what their project's going to be. And do you think it's beneficial, considering like the kind of I guess the kind of fusion that Seven Grounds is, to have a producer like that who can do the punk and can do the psychedelia and can do anything you want atmospherically, in terms of the sound of the room, anything like that? Like how's that work, I guess, like with Josh?
I mean, overall, we better talk to the musicians, but I mean, for my thing overall with him, it is the fact that I think the advantage is he doesn't come from the background I particularly come from, or the rest of us. He doesn't have that absolute nosebleed old hardcore background, so he hasn't got any of the prejudices that come with that production wise.
The baggage.
Yeah, he's not bothered. It doesn't sound like it was done on SST in 1981.
He's not genre blind.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't. Oh, we can make it sound like so and so in 1990. None of that comes into it with him. He's just what you come up with, he'll work with, and okay, we'll run with that.
He's also a very competent musician himself, so he can play guitar, keys, bass. He can probably play everything better than we can play it, actually. But so he understands each instrument and where it fits and what
the dynamic
doing. So he's not just listening to a mix and saying, "Oh, what sounds good." He knows what works well, when to draw it back a bit or enhance certain elements of it.
Yeah.
So
he's attuned to being able to see the bigger picture.
And he's got an ear unlike any that I've ever heard. He can hear things and spot things that I mean, partly because we're probably all partially deaf. 20 years of
he doesn't have to play this.
So that's probably got something to do with it. But he'll hear something and he'll go, "Oh," and he'll point it out, and it's just passed me by. So he's just got an incredible ear. For spotting opportunities and little cuts and little edits and actually little additions. And
also because he plays with us live, he really gets what the band is about in terms of the energy and what we bring to the table there. So he's able to see that, he's experienced it, and also interprets that into the recording as well. So it's kind of, he's got quite a unique perspective, I think, because he's in the band as well as producing, and he's able to switch hats, I think.
I think his big advantage as well, he looks kind of sleazy. as well.
Yeah, that helps.
Which Josh looks like he should be a record producer working with Miami Sound Machine in Florida in about 82. And I say that from a position of love for Josh, but he's a sleazy looking little bastard. He really is.
I was going to go for he's a good dude, but that's
Actually a good dude. But come on.
that's a better answer.
those two things aren't exclusive. You can be a sleazy looking dude and actually be a nice guy.
Let's sit in the middle.
That's the history of punk rock, almost.
We're actually sat in his office at the moment.
We're in his office without his permission. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so he's just gonna like come in like, what's all that noise? When you mentioned like you guys aren't like putting too much focus on like the live show anymore, the second you like free it up, then when you're doing a record, like, because I know with some artists like they're kind of like dead set on like anything we put on record we have to be able to reproduce live, and other artists are like, no, it doesn't matter, it's its own thing. But for you guys that even enter the conversation, like when you do the shows that you did at the end of May, do you kind of think like, oh shit, can we translate this, or is it like, fuck it, who cares?
We've definitely adapted some of it,
we've
hasn't
got
it?
three lineups.
Yeah, I mean,
we play as a 4-piece, a 5-piece, and a 6-piece, and we can do all we want. So
but we've definitely sort of had to sit down and go, right, how can we take this to the stage? And it's different. You're not getting exactly what you're hearing on the album live, but that's kind of part of the fun. You know, it's a different beast live altogether, even though the medium's kind of similar. But yes, it's a close adaptation, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's how Josh ended up playing live with us in the first place. One of the EPs he did, or was it the first recording he did with us? Yeah. We started adding layers and samples and stuff, you know, more so than we'd ever done before. And then we loved what it sounded like, so we were like, oh, can we do that live? Josh, can you stick all those samples and effects into that pad over there, and can you come and stand on stage with us at the back and just make noises? And then we started putting Monty's vocals through pedals and things like that to give us the effects on the vocals that we had on the recordings. So that's how Josh ended up playing live with us anyway. So we are, we do recreate it, a version of it live.
It's like a hybrid.
As a 4-piece, we just play a straight down the line, fast as hell, hardcore set. With the 6-piece, Spider, who sings with us, she lives in Switzerland by way of America, so she's only available sometimes. So if with a full 6-piece, you get all the amazing female vocals and all that, but standardly, you just get the 5-piece.
And when you wouldn't be brave enough to do the falsetto and try and emulate the vocals.
Like Spider can do. If you want to give it, good luck. There ain't many women on earth who can sing like that woman. If he comes in the studio and starts singing, I walk out because I realise I am not a singer. I'm just a man who shouts in time with stuff. So,
as long as it's in key,
The other thing as well, we're talking about the different lineups, having a 4-piece lineup, a 5-piece lineup, 6-piece lineup. Seven Crowns has got so much material from being around for 20 years that is quite a cool position to find ourselves in, where we can pick and choose songs. It's like we're short of material, so we can mold a set to suit the situation and who's around.
Do you ever actually set on material that you don't release, and then like when you're making a new record you go, oh, we have like a backlog here that we could maybe pull from? Or is every time you record a new album, is that always like a new series of sessions?
We record in a really strange way. Well, apparently it's not. Apparently the Smiths used to do it. We record a song at a time. We write a song, nail it, learn it, come in the studio, record it. We don't do the whole bringing in a whole load of songs, because we've just found going in the studio, focusing on one song, it's a whole lot easier and better. You take it, if you don't work, come in another session, put it away. And it just, for us, it works. It just works. And I think when we used to record albums in one go, you'd come in and you'd like, Christ, day 5 we're still doing drums.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Rob, but Rob sits there going, I've got 7 days of hearing guitars.
Massively disrespectful.
So it just gets, so
You played it right the first time, Rob.
Yeah,
But we just found that worked well. But I know it's quite when we're writing now, I don't do any vocals until the recording's done, and I go home with the music. And then I record the vocals later after I've just had it in headphones in my brain for a few weeks.
It takes all the time pressure off it as well. And
you're not looking at a clock, are you?
Yeah, not looking at a clock. Whereas before we'd be going in to record 10 songs and we'd have like 3 days to do it.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be a lot of pressure on there, and we'd come out, and every album we ever did at that point, I there's bits on it which I go, I'm not quite happy with that, or that's not quite, I would have changed that. Now, every song we release is exactly how we want it. Because there's no time pressure. We're not worried about, you know, money pressures or, you know, and Josh knows that. Josh is on the same wavelength as us. So that's why we do it a song at a time, because we can just make sure every song is bang on before we kind of close it off.
But we also have, you know, lives outside the band. So it suits our schedule to be able to do a song at a time and go away and think about it and go back to the real world for a little bit. And and like Rob was saying, because if you're doing it a song at a time, you can spread, you know, the cost of recording out. You're not having to front, you know, thousands of pounds for a 2-week slot in some studio somewhere. So it's flexible as well. It's kind of logistically better for us.
It's just sort of monolithic as well. When you're going to record 10 songs in one, it's just like, bloody hell, there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
You know, one, you can see, well, 2 days, 3 days, it's all out and done. We can finish it, can't we?
Let's take the new record then. So Haunted Head. So how long did that take from beginning to end, I guess, to produce?
Quite
about 4 years.
Maybe not quite that long.
I think it was just nearly Haunted Head. The tune, was the first song.
Yeah,
the first song on the album was the first song we wrote and recorded.
I heard a mix of that in the jungle in Costa Rica. So that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, probably 3 years.
3 years total.
Yeah.
And again, does that feel like it's? Does that feel like you've been working on it that long?
It didn't. No, it doesn't, and it doesn't feel. It hasn't ever felt laborious in any way. I mean, you know, we over the years we've honed this recording process down to a way that works so well for us that we enjoy it. So it's exciting. We look forward to it. I mean, we just said the first track on the album, Haunted Head, is about 3 years old, getting up there. And then, for example, the first single off of the album, Side Effects, we wrote in about 10 minutes the day before we were going in to record. So it's not a predictable process. So it keeps it interesting.
Yeah, because the other songs on it took ages.
Yeah.
Took ages, and then Side Effects just appeared out of nowhere. It just almost appeared as a complete song in minutes.
Well, we were going into the studio to record something else, weren't we?
Yeah.
And because we wrote it.
And Liam went, "Oh, like this.
Yeah, let's do that
Song."
And we ended up tracking drums for two. Is that right, Rob?
Two songs. Yeah,
songs because
two songs we've recorded.
Yeah, so we were expecting to do one song, and the song came out of nowhere. So we utilised our time and said, right, let's get drums done for two. And but that's not how we planned it.
I think without the restraints of, you know, time, we can enjoy the ebb and flow of it a bit more.
It's almost like how big 70s mega bands recorded.
Yeah.
But instead of going away to the Bahamas you just kind of stretch it over 3 years in a studio down the road from you. But again, because those bands who did that, there was no pressure, right? They were just sort of sitting around and do a bit of this, do a bit of that, play a bit more, try that. And that's the key. Once the pressure's off, everything becomes easy. It's the same in all factors of life, doesn't it? You know, once you're not feeling stressed about it.
So I was interested in, like, when it comes from the lyrics, and so, like, when you're writing lyrics over like such a stretch of time, I mean, do you have consideration then for, like, I guess, its relevancy after the fact, or is unfortunately the world stagnating in a kind of bad way that doesn't really become an issue?
Lyrically for this one, it was quite. It was easy in the hardest way possible. Over the sort of 3 years, 4 years that album was in gestation, a whole bunch of our friends and family died.
He seems to have frozen.
Nope, we froze him.
Oh, there we go.
He's
Got
back.
you there. Got you there.
He's back.
Perfect. And that was just
so over those years, basically all the lyrics are about death and grief of friends and family. We lost nothing to do with COVID. It was just one of those weird parts of time when loads of people we knew passed away. And oddly, Who'd have thought grief gives you a huge pool to write from? Right? You know, tragedy and death. It gives you a whole load of stuff you can write about, and it all came easy. Because we've never done overtly political stuff, really. You know, we're a very political band in our lifestyle and the way we live, but we're not politically, you know, we sing about life and how it affects us and
Experience.
So yeah, the key thing overarching the past 3 years has been, sadly, bloody death. So
Yeah.
that's where the album came from, and it's happy-go-lucky.
And that's how it's ended up with a common thread.
Yeah, so it's, you know,
the songs being distanced apart, they had that common thread.
Yeah, it's all grief.
And yeah, I was reading about that in the EPK about the theme of grief and death, and I don't know. I mean, like there's kind of a universality to that, as you were kind of mentioning. I'm not sure which one you was quoted because the quote was attributed to the band as a collective, but the quote was basically along the lines of like it really doesn't matter your background at all. Like grief is going to hit you. It's going to hit all of us, and you know we can all relate to it. With that said, I mean, what was your kind of, I guess, the idea of like expressing grief? Like, was it to kind of give comfort to other people, or was it just something you had to express?
I think it had to be expressed, but it sounds like a hairy dog story and a bit of name dropping. My wife lost her mum and dad 24 hours apart, and we'd been caring for them for several years. A year after they died, I said, we'll go somewhere away. So we were in Panama, on this tiny island off the coast of Panama, and there was some lads on the island, and it was a bit hairy. There was some bad guys on the island. They were a bit heavy, and I didn't know where we were going with it. And I was talking to one of them one day, and I explained, we're here because it's the anniversary of my wife losing her mum and dad. And these sort of gang kids were like, shit, that sucks, man. That's terrible. We're really sorry. And from then on, they were lovely. Because these gang kids as well, they'd been through grief. They knew how shit it was and what it felt like. And it was like, it doesn't matter. I'm a comparatively very rich man from Western Europe compared with some guys living on an island off of Panama. But grief's exactly the same for them. It's exactly the same for you. It's exactly the same for everybody on Earth. And it don't matter where you live, what you got in the bank. It's shit, and you've got to deal with it.
I think another thing like on the theme of grief is that like it also kind of brings about a cycle of I think fear, you know, because there's always this kind of like trepidation, I think, especially as you get older, where you know not only do you think about your own mortality but like the people around you, and you know there's all these like factors, and like it's such I mean human life in a lot of ways is so frivolous in a way. Like I don't mean like it's insignificant, but I mean it's so ephemeral and short, but it's also kind of I don't know, like it could happen at any time. There's this sort of because we hate that we really dread that feeling of grief or losing someone that even when they're with us, it can be very scary, you know.
Well, I mean, one of the songs on the album, Acts of Mindless Kindness, is about an old friend of ours, Joe Frankie, from an American band called Fracas.
Yeah.
And he was the most hale and hearty, you know, he was like a human tank. He was invulnerable to all things. And he just died from a heart attack like that. Just boom, and he was gone, you know. But he had always said to me, he said, when we get older, because we used to get about in the old days, and he said, when we get older, all of our death certificates will have cause of death the 1990s. Complications deriving from the 1990s. And I was like, Dave's the coroner a lot. I've just put they had loads of fun in the 90s, and now you got to pay the ticket eventually, right?
Yeah. but
unfortunately, for a load of our buddies who had quite a lifestyle, you get into your 50s and 60s, and you all start dropping off the edge. So,
yeah, I remember actually years ago I saw Keith Morris from Circle Jerks. He was with that band Off at the time, and they had a song dedicated to Jeffrey Lee Pierce of the Gun Club. And I remember like I saw him live, and he's suddenly like, 'cause he's like very, you know, jokey and sarcastic, but he got kind of serious about it. And I guess at the time he would have been in his mid-50s, and he was sort of talking about like, yeah, I get to this age now where like everyone's just dropping like flies. And at the time I was a teenager, and now I'm kind of getting to the age where I'm like, oh shit, I can kind of, you know,
You start seeing it, man. Yeah,
I'm starting to see it, yeah, and it is like, oh shit, I didn't appreciate it when it's all, but like that's always, but you always think like when you're young, I guess, that like everything is sort of you don't really appreciate the impermanence of it. You just think it's gonna last forever, like, you know. And so especially it's interesting. So good.
You have to. I think you have to recognize as well, if you live a kind of party boy lifestyle, as a lot of us did in our youth, you have to realize when to pull the parachute.
Yeah.
And if you don't pull it soon enough, you are screwed.
Yeah.
It never ends well if you don't get off the horse soon enough. It always, and I'm saying that with a smile on my face, but it always ends in disaster.
No, you're right.
Age.
You, not long. You have got not long, mate. A couple of years.
The fun thing I was going to ask, because you've been very gracious, I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I wanted to ask actually about the release of Haunted Head. So, you know, one thing that, you know, you guys elected to do with this was not release on Spotify. You were happy to release it on stream, but not on Spotify. And I know there's a lot of people who have kind of ethical qualms with Spotify, and but they still feel like, well, I have to be on there because, you know, my band needs to grow, or we have to be seen, or whatever. And even like I've talked to artists that I consider successful, and you think they wouldn't have to do that, but they're like, no, it gets in this cycle where their career, once it hits a certain peak, it has to keep growing, so it requires being on the biggest platform. For you guys, I mean, do you think that's a freedom that's given to you because you have kind of a relaxed attitude with the band, or do you think even if you were trying to be, I don't know, in the top 10 or whatever, that you'd still be like, no, we're not doing it?
Do you know, honestly, the biggest advantage we have is we don't give a fuck about fame, fortune. Any of that is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So because of that, we can just do anything we want. And it's what we have done, anything we want.
That's why we're still together after a year.
And it just worked, you know. It's, I think, it's, I don't want to be, I'm not going to judge any of the band, but it bothers, I do get a bit irate when I wish we weren't on Spotify. Then don't. It's your band, fucking don't.
Yeah, I mean, our band doesn't need to grow as much as Spotify needs to fuck off.
That is a good full quote. What did for you guys?
Priorities.
For you guys, what is like? Because there's actually so many issues with Spotify, so I want to know specifically what is kind of what does it for you? Because like obviously, you know, there's investment now in AI, not paying artists properly. You know, what's the dude? Daniel Ek, I think is his name, the CEO, funding like military, you know, strikes and all this kind of shit.
It's not CEO.
Well, there you go. You got, yeah. I mean, the problem is the guy who owns it is essentially a Bond villain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's a Bond villain. He's there's no redeeming features in that man. And two, you know, famously, was it Snoop Dogg showing $40,000 from a billion plays?
Yeah.
The worst record deal in the 1970s didn't rip you off like that.
Yeah.
You know, those guys who got absolutely crucified in the 70s by record labels, they still weren't getting ripped off at that level.
I mean, all those streaming services are shitty, but Spotify goes that extra mile.
They seem to revel in it. They enjoy their shittiness. It's like Ryanair. Ryanair enjoy the fact that they're bastards, and it's kind of their sales pitch, isn't it? We're fuckers. Deal with it or don't.
We're cunts.
You know, Spotify are the same. We're fuckers. Deal with it or don't.
Also, it's the other thing is that they don't, considering they make their money out of other people's music, is they don't even see value in music. You know, I think it was the Spotify guy that said, you know, if bands want to make money out of Spotify, they need to create more content. You know, so it doesn't even see music as music. It's just
product
or
transaction.
So yeah, it's a transaction. So fundamentally, it's insane that you've got the largest music platform, you know, on the planet being run by someone that doesn't even like music. You know, that's crazy to me. And then, like you said, all the ethical stuff around, you know, then had adverts for ICE, you know, on their recruitment ads, and the AI, you know, funding weapons being used in war zones. You know, we don't want to be associated with that. And I know all money's dirty if you go far enough back, but it's, you know, the little choices we make, because we have the power to make those choices. Like Jon was saying, it's like we're not trying to be rich and famous, so we can take that power back, you know. And I know we're not changing the world by not being on Spotify, but I think just people talking about it, you know, you're asking us about it, and it creates a conversation. And if lots of people were to do something similar, then they soon have to look at their business model.
And I got to look in the mirror in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
And if I was on Spotify, I'd go, oh.
Also, where's I mean, if you're gonna break bad, where's the incentive? You know, I mean, well, we had to make the hard choice of being on Spotify because it was £1 million a stream. I mean, I could understand that to a certain extent. Let's be on Spotify and bend our morals for 0.0000002p a stream. I mean, come on.
Yeah, there's not even a motivation, is it? It's just.
Well, I think I think the people I've spoken to about it, their argument is that it has the biggest listenership, but I think like people need to get off it. You know, like I think people, like exactly, Well, they're again thinking about career growth and stuff like that. They're like, well, we have to be on there and all that. But no, I disagree. I think like there's plenty of different alternatives, and like you said, like, you know, it's not like Apple Music or Tidal is that great either. Like they all have ethical issues, but like you said, like, you know, not paying your artist so you can give Joe Rogan $500 million is like, it's not a good business deal
also,
to me.
If you genuinely love music, and you say, for example, you know, growing up, I was really still am big into punk music, hardcore, that kind of stuff. You go out your way to find it. So we don't need casual Spotify listeners to find our band. We want people who love what we do and who are invested in the same world as us to find us. And those people are out there, and they will find us because they're the music nuts. They're the people that are invested in a certain culture and want to find bands that sound similar to the ones they like. So if you're really into music, it's unlikely you wouldn't find out about Seven Crowns if you were listening to similar types of music. You know, it's not casual listener music.
No,
absolutely
not.
I mean, you know, pre-internet, I mean, you grow up, especially in the punks in the 80s, you had to scour for it, you know, American, Japanese punk stuff. You had to get Maximum Rock and Roll, you had to find out, and then you read reviews of it, and that was no guarantee you could even buy copies of these things unless you knew someone in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, and when you got things, the value they had, you know, an import vinyl used to cost 20 quid. 20 quid in the late 80s was like paying 100 quid for a record now.
That's how much it is now.
Yeah.
But we're also lucky with our network, you know, with the label Pale Wizard that's put the record out, and, you know, people like Josh and Monty's, you know, wider connections, and we're all seasoned at what we do, and we know, you know, the network of people, and word of mouth is still extremely strong. And, you know, I think that's why you're seeing small indie labels doing well, because they create something people want to get involved with. And you know, we know that we've had people buy our album that wouldn't have bought it unless if they hadn't been a fan of Pale Wizard, for example. So they trust Pale Wizard to put out good music. They trust, you know, the taste of those individuals.
I mean, I used to do it with alternative tentacles.
Yeah.
If anything came out on AT, you'd buy it.
Yeah.
You know, if anything came out on Discord, you'd buy it.
And you discover something new that you wouldn't have listened to before, you know. And I remember, you know, when I was a teenager going into the local record shop, I'd go, and again, pre-internet being the main place you'd buy records, I'd go and look at the pictures, you know, the album sleeve, oh, that looks good. And I put it on, and sometimes, you know, 9 times out of 10, it wasn't as good as you thought it was going to be. But that one time you found that band, there's bands I listen to now that have came from that experience, you know, picking up the CD or the record sleeve and going, oh, that looks cool. So I think you can't underestimate the art of discovery as well.
Yeah, I actually remember.
That's why I love Manowar. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have this experience, but I remember like when I was younger, going to like a record shop, and even if I didn't buy the record, sometimes being like so kind of taken aback by the album art that like I kind of envision what the album is like in my head. I'm almost afraid now to like listen to it because I'm like, oh, I can imagine that's like, you know, real lo-fi gothic fucking synths and shit, and then you listen to it, it's probably like, you know, just straight hardcore or whatever. But you know, you envision it in your head. Same with, like, you know, when you used to see like the one I always remember, like going into the video shop and seeing the videotape for Eraserhead, and I'd never watched, like as a kid, I didn't watch the film, but I just in my head, like had this like grand vision of what that film was, and then you watch it and it's great, but it's like it's not exactly what you're thinking. You're like, oh well.
I think music needs that anticipation back. I mean, just having it delivered into your face without any, you know, I mean, I used to love like getting Melody Maker and reading a breakdown of the album that the journalist had heard at a listening party 2 months before and trying to envision what this is actually going to sound like, and then comparing and contrasting when you actually finally hear it instead of, how album's here, go, eat it, move on.
Yeah.
But that's interesting about the moving on piece as well, because if you bought a record, say 20, 30 years ago, that was, you were invested in
financial.
You had, you know, your hard-earned cash was, and you know, you may not have heard it before you bought it, but it came on a recommendation because you liked the sleeve. And then if you got it at home and you listen to it, you think, oh, this is not quite. Nowadays, if you're like, oh, this isn't quite what I like, you skip, you move on to the next album. Whereas you would invest time, and actually, after several listens, you might go, I love this record. And that happened to me. I can tell you that happened to me with Ramones' first album and Black Flag Damaged. Both those albums on first listen, I was like, what have I just heard? Now, if I listen to those albums nowadays on Spotify or whatever, if I didn't connect with it immediately, I may have moved on from it.
The value's gone.
Yeah, and those two bands are like in my top 5 bands of all time. So music needs to be digested and repeated to.
Well, you know, a good example of that, the Germs album.
I'd
heard about
GI.
it, but I'd never seen GI. And then I saw one, obviously an expensive import in Replay in Bristol. And I thought, hang on, this is LA's wildest punk band. And the cover, you know, it's such an iconic, beautiful piece of design. But it
the
looks
blue
like
circle,
it should be on Factory. It looks like it should be on Factory Records. It's like one of those it's like a factory release from the mid-'80s.
Electronic band.
Tony Wilson would have loved it. And I remember seeing that and go, well, that can't be that. I've heard about this mad singer. That can't be that band. Because there's, you know, I was like 15 and the punk album had to have crass lettering on it, or mohawks and studded jackets and skulls.
Or Henry Rollins punching the mirror.
And this artistic, weird, beautiful piece of why is the circle offset? Why is you know? And it's one of the. But I thought, now if I hadn't known what was coming, because I'd heard and read in MRR that this is an incredible band, I'd have looked at that and gone, more fool me. But you know, there you go. It didn't look like a punk record at the time. Strangely, it's probably the most iconic one of that era. You know.
It's certainly like I think one of the first hardcore records, right? I mean, like I think hardcore
comes out of nowhere. I mean, you know, there's the Middle Class single.
Vogue, isn't it?
Even that's a bit later.
I think 78, and I think Germs of 79.
But where they went from the early Sex Boys single to GI, how did it jump? And that always gets me when you find a kind of music and you can't see where the origin is. And GI, no other band on the planet sounded like them, really. And they just kind of, and that always gets me when it's like, I can't even see your influences at this point. You know, like, what? Because nothing sounded like that.
When you think about like the hardcore movement, like a lot of that stuff was sort of like, you know, when you think of like the original punk movement and then the different kind of areas it went into, like, you know, you think of like Wire, Gang of Four, kind of post-punk, kind of artsy stuff, Mission of Burma, stuff like that. And then hardcore to me is like very, I don't know, seemed to like really just take the anger and the aggression and the pure rock and roll. But what's interesting is that it was like really quick, because like it was really from like 79 to like 82, because even by 83 you have bands doing like new stuff. You know, you think of like basically every artist. Well, every artist on SST, like, you know, Black Flag, Husker Du, Minutemen, they all just like abandoned it and just went like completely somewhere else and stuff. And
College Rock, didn't they? Most of them.
Loads of SST especially Husker Du,
rock bands. Das Dam and all those go. October Faction, College Rock.
But I think actually, like I know there was a UK 82 movement, but I actually think the closest approximation in British punk was the anarcho punk movement, like you were saying, like
Yeah,
bands like Crass and Sounds and all those bands. Sounds are, by the way, I think are one of the most underrated bands in history. Their music is
brilliant pop
so
band.
fucking
Brilliant
good.
pop band. It's
I
just
I
great
think
pop
they're
songs.
good. Yeah, it's really good. And
Great
like
pop songs.
it sounds like so contemporary still. I really think people
Yeah.
should check out them. But what I was gonna say is like as because I sort of like was I grew up on this stuff kind of like later, kind of retrospectively.
Mhm.
What was it like actually at the time? Because you were mentioning reading Maximum Rock and Roll, and as I would read back issues, one thing I noticed about Maximum Rock and Roll is that their album and singles reviews were like stuffed. So they'd have like, they were maybe reviewing like 20 singles, right?
Yeah.
And like each single would get maybe like 3 lines. So how did you
Yeah.
know, as someone who had to import those albums, how do you know which ones to fork out the money for and which ones not, just going on those recommendations?
I used to go, you'd get your gyro and you'd go over to Replay in Bristol, who had all the good the imports, and you would always be that, do I buy an American import for 20?
Yeah.
The same price then, you could get two domestic albums and a couple of EPs for the same price.
Yeah.
So you always had, and like anything else, even in that world, fashion comes and goes, bands are hip for a bit, certain name, and it'd be weird, sounded like these really obscure bands, but even then they had their moment when everybody needed it, like. But that British scene, I'm 56 next month, so I started going to gigs mid-80s, and the only bands I loved from Britain then were Anti-Sect and Amoebics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amoebics were our hometown band, and Anti-Sect were just this doomy. They were scary looking guys in those days. They lived it. By that time they were kind of moving out of squats and living on buses, and you realised even though they were Anti-Sect, being in a band was just 5% of their life. It was just a side issue for those guys.
What about like
robust and
Blastverse and stuff
interesting
like?
life.
What about like Blastverse and stuff like when they were bringing over the SST bands and stuff? Were you and the Touch and Go bands? Were you interested in that scene, or was that like?
The best band I ever saw on Blastverse were British, Head of David.
Yeah.
They were staggering live band. They were.
So you weren't interested in kind of like the Big Black, the Sonic Youths, and all that?
I saw Big Black and I didn't live, and it's terrible
Oh, really?
to say. I thought they were rubbish.
Fair enough.
I thought they were absolute crap. But having said that, if I saw them now, I'd probably like them.
Yeah.
I saw them when I was like 18, and I just thought, oh god, pretentious. But yeah, now I'd love them. But I love the records. I just saw them live, and I just didn't like them, and I felt really embarrassed telling my mates as we all left, going, "Yeah, I didn't think they're that good."
Yeah, because going on something Nick said, we were talking about.
Yeah. Sorry?
Going on something Nick was saying about like listening to Damage for the first time. I remember that because I was like, everyone talked about Black Flag, right? So I listened to that record and I loved like, Rise Above, and I loved, Six Pack and all that. But then when I get to like some of the more kind of challenging songs like Damage 2, I think that's which is slow one where he's like, my name is Henry, you're with me now. I forget
you're dealing with my accountant.
Yeah. Well, that one I remember being like, "What the fuck is going on?" I just want like 3-minute fucking hardcore. But then, like as you get older,
it's an age thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I can appreciate like Slip It In and My War.
Pack, Rise Above, Gimme Gimme. That's all the great stuff. And you get
all
older,
that stuff,
and it's all the weird, heavy. This like My War. Side 2 of My War is the best thing Black Flag ever did.
Yeah,
and it's slow. It's a horrible thing, but it's great.
Do you like their spoken word record? What's it called? Family Man. I could never get into that one.
Not much. The best. Do you know a guy called? Have you heard of Tony Bluetile?
I recognize the name. Yeah.
He's an American. He's someone we know in Oakland who mashes up, and he's done a great set. He can't release them legally because of copyright laws, but he's taken Henry Rollins' spoken word, dubbed it beautifully over a loop of The End by the Door, LA Woman by the Doors.
Oh,
and he's also taken a Black Flag track from the Process of Weeding Out and put Jim Morrison on it.
Yeah.
So the best vocalist the Black Flag have ever had is Jim Morrison, and the best vocalist the Doors ever had is Henry Rollins. And there's loads of great stuff on it. There's a fabulous Wings Circle Jerks mix-up.
Really?
Which is only topped by the Crass and Can mix-up.
Actually, I do want to hear that.
Shaved women dubbed in with Can. Tony Blue Tile. Find it if you can. It's feckin' hard to get hold of.
I'm gonna actually, I'm gonna look that up for definitely. No, what I was gonna say actually, the Crass and Can I can actually envision. I think that,
like that. Shaved women with the 4/4 beat going is great.
But especially if it's like the Penis Envy era, like that stuff. Like I think would really suit Can.
It works like a charm. Yeah.
Perfect, lads. Listen, you've been very great with your time. I don't want to take up any more. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up? Obviously, the album's out now, but is there anything else that people should know?
No.
You may be coming to Ireland sometime, hopefully. So stay tuned.
Yes.
Well, we're in the Black Flag. I am in communication with Irish promoters as we speak.
Perfect. So, if you need a hand with that, just shoot me an email. By the way, I know people. So if you need any help,
we'll be in touch. And if you have trouble getting that Tony Blue Tile stuff, get in touch with us through Jade.
Perfect. No, absolutely. I really do want to check that out.
It's wonderful, but it's a bastard to get off because he's facing every kind of legal action if he ever releases any of it.
Yeah, you don't want to get sued by Greg Ginn.
No. I think he's more worried about the Doors legal team.
Didn't he try and copyright the fucking flag logo? Because I remember there was that flag iteration. He was like, "You can't tour with the logo." It's like, "Fuck you."
No, it's now he's just a sad old man with his band of 16-year-olds.
They came to town. And I was like, "Should I?" But I didn't. I was like, "I can't." Like, but I was like, "I can't." But I was tempted.
Did you go? No, I couldn't.
No, I wasn't. But
did you go see the flag with Keith Morris and the rest of them when
they never came here? I don't think.
They were spectacular.
Yeah,
they were epic. It was everything you ever wanted them to be.
I have seen both Circle Jerks and Off, so all I need is Flag, and I have to keep Morris trifecta. So yeah, perfect, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, lads, and
you too,
great album.
Good to meet you.
Cheers, hopefully we'll see you in Ireland.
Absolutely, you will. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, so we hope that you enjoyed and consider subscribing, giving it a like on YouTube, or a rating anywhere else. We also have some exclusive episodes only available on Spotify, which features interviews with the likes of Kim Deal, Ron Mail of Sparks, Jacob Slater of Wonder Horse, Maria Kelly, Gavin Friday, and many more. So check those out if you're so inclined. Otherwise, thank you for listening and see you next time.